Hello and welcome to this week's tutorial. This week we're gonna look at making an intro type video. I'll show you the final thing that we've got going on. So I made this for a YouTuber that was having a little contest on. He wanted a 5-second intro that he could use for his videos, and I quickly came up with this idea and sort of emailed it off, just as sort of a quick little side project to do. And so you can sort of already see the effect here. There's the sort of main thing going on in the center that I want everyone to look at. And then we've got sort of the colors radiating out of the sort of same shape. And I'll just hit play. It's just 5 seconds, and as you can see the colors cycle through and expand out, and it's quite cool. So I'll quickly show you how to achieve that effect in Blender. We'll start off by getting rid of the default cube, and I'll turn on my screencast key so you can see what buttons I'm pressing. I'm just going to top view and create a text object, delete what's there, and I'll do a little logo for myself. You can have anything in the center. You can have a picture of something if you want, or text, or pretty much anything. And then we'll start by creating the first sort of object that expands out, and we'll just start off with a plane and just sort of move it to be over the text. Tab into edit mode, and using wireframe mode we can see the text behind it. And I'll just use loop cut to create a few cuts and sort of start shaping things, get it to be generally the same sort of shape. I won't spend a lot of time on this process right now just because it can take a while if you want to get it sort of really nice and spot on accurate. But for the sake of this video, this should be about enough. See, that looks about alright, and I'll just do a little bit there where it sort of dips in, just to show there's stuff going on there. So that looks alright. I'll do a Control-2 to create a subsurface modifier with 2 levels of subdivisions on it. And then we go in object mode, create 2 new shape keys here, and the basis is just always one you want to leave alone. And key 1, select that and go into edit mode, and I'll just select everything, and I'm just going to scale it up really big. And that's just how the expanding effect works. So if we go into object mode, we can go, if we turn the value up, we can see it this way. That's the easiest way to do it. So yeah, that's how that looks. So next up, we'll move this just sort of below, and we'll create a material. Just create a new one. Turn the diffuse value all the way up and specular all the way down, because otherwise you'll get some just bright white shapes if the specular's on. And we'll just go start at the top with a light blue, and I'll just bring this down a bit here. So we've got, so I want to be able to see this button and this blue spot here, and I'm gonna create a bunch of duplicates in a second. First I need to animate this key, so just right click on this value here, insert keyframe with it at 0, and then we'll skip ahead using, I think it's shift and up arrow. Hotkeys changed recently, and then change that value to 1 and insert keyframe. So we've got it animated to expand up. So yeah, next we're going to create a bunch of duplicates of this plane. So Shift D and then just right click, Shift D, right click. Do that a whole bunch of times. Probably that many will do, 26. Because basically we need to create enough to sort of start the effect, and then we can start sort of rendering from about frame 80 onwards. So next we will create a bunch of new materials for the planes, and clicking this button is add a new material, and it copies the current one that's on the current object, or whatever's currently selected, and so it keeps all these settings, so you don't have to change that every time. You just need to change the colour. So we're just going to sort of work our way around the colour wheel. So we've started with a light blue, so we'll move to dark blue, and then sort of a dark purple, and more of a pink, and red, and orange, and then yellow, and then green. And you'll see if you click this button here, a bunch of nice colours. So we can go here, just sort of go through here and quickly assign them all new materials. It's fairly tedious, and it's mostly just repeating a few actions to get the effect. Try to keep a good memory of what was the last one you did, and just keep the order the same each time, just as you cycle through. Only a few more to go, so I want that one to be light blue, so the next one dark blue, dark purple, pink. So that should be plenty of planes with different colours. As we select them, the most sort of whatever's selected is whatever sort of becomes dominant in the screen, because they're all taking up exactly the same space. With that in mind, we'll move everything sort of to be quite far away from the text. And I'll show you why. The actual distance between them doesn't matter, but when it comes to animating them to be in front of each other, having a lot of distance is quite important. And we'll move the initial one to be quite high up. So there's a lot of distance for these other planes to travel, and you'll see what effect that sort of has, but just sort of while we're here, we'll set that up. And next we need to sort of offset the actual size change in the planes so that they don't all expand at exactly the same time, and that's pretty easy. Just in the dope sheet, and I'll just close all these down. You don't have to close all these, but it just sort of helps to be a bit clearer as to what everything is, because otherwise you've got sort of 4 keys that you can select, but whereas this way you can just see there's 2, one for the start and one for the end. So the first one will be fine as it is, and then select these 2 keys and just hit G and then 10 on the numpad, you can see down there, and then just hit enter to confirm the entry. So G and then 20, G and then 30, maybe G30, no, wait, there we go, G40, G50, G60, G70, G80, G90, G100, G110. If you wanted, you could just select all these and go G100 and just sort of bring them back up. And then go G20, G30, G40, G50, G60, G70, and I'm noticing that when I hit A it's not coming up here, so after I've moved them I'm just hitting A to deselect, in case you're wondering. G80, G90, and G100 again. Type that wrong. G110, G120, nearly there, G140, G150, G160, if I type it correctly, and then G170. So it's looking like it's a bit not right there, so I'll go G minus 10, that looks better. So I skipped 10 at some point there, but that's easy enough to fix. Yep, and that looks good. So, and there might be a way to sort of script those sort of actions to get it to offset, but it's good practice to sort of know how you're doing everything manually anyway. Just sort of, it's good to know sort of how your car works, rather than just expecting it to magically work every time. So now we've got the sort of offset thing, and you can kind of see it going on down here. You can see the different colours and stuff. Sort of the trick is we're sort of utilising 3D space to create a 2D effect. So in 3D space, whatever's on top is always going to be the one that's sort of rendered, I suppose. So what we're going to do is animate these sort of moving up and being in place. So we'll start by selecting all of these. Just do it in wireframe mode so you can make sure you selected everything. Then I and a location key, and then we'll select the next plane in this list here, and we can make this list even bigger because we don't need the material editor anymore. So we select this one, and then we'll go into side view and move up 10 frames, just using the up arrow, because it moves to the sort of next keyframe at this point, and the next keyframe for this object is on frame 11, and then we'll just move it to be just ahead of this plane. You want to keep it as close as possible, but don't be too worried about being super close. So select the next plane, and you can see here, if we hit up arrow, it goes to the next keyframe, which is 10 frames ahead. Bring it up, and just be a little bit careful about it. Next one, up arrow, bring it up. Next one, up arrow, bring it up. You can do a up arrow and then GZ if you want, but I don't always have enough space on my screen, so I do prefer to use the widget when just sort of doing a single direction transformation. Up arrow. And again, it's a little bit tedious, but I mean, at this point I spent about 10 or 15 minutes on this so far. For a 5-second clip, which, when you think about it, the amount of time you can spend animating. And I did that one wrong because I was talking. Make sure you skip to the correct frame. Yeah, if it sort of took 10 or 15 minutes to animate 5 seconds worth of footage, then there'd be a million more animated movies out there. There's not much really to say whilst I'm doing this. It is this same process over and over again. So I'll just pause the recording whilst I do this, just sort of save on video space. And I'm just doing this just for this last lot, so I'll be back in a second. So I'm just about to do the last one, selecting it, up arrow, and grabbing that, and moving it into place. As you can see, I've kept everything pretty close together. It doesn't have to be consistently exactly right, but we should be able to see the effect now, hopefully. Cool. So I'll go to the start and hit A, and we can just get an idea that everything's working properly. That looks good. So we can pause that. And there is a reason for doing it this way, and having a good amount of distance for the actual pieces to move and keeping them close together. Because it sort of gets difficult to make sure they sort of stay in the right place, and if you sort of don't give them much room to move and leave them really spaced apart, there is a bit of extra movement that sort of comes in, that you can see on the graph editor, where things sort of move a little bit extra because they're not just moving in a straight line. They're sort of slowly moving and then moving really quickly and then slowly moving at the end. And just by doing it this way, we've sort of eliminated any issues that can sort of arise where some of them will sort of stay on top for a long time without actually expanding yet, because they'd get there early. But just by doing it this way, we don't have to go into any graph editors and make any edits. We've got the just animation that works. So we'll just set up the camera and the light. For the camera, select the camera object, this one here, Alt R and Alt G, and we should turn off the keyframe. Fortunately, I just keyframed it. I'm just going to undo that, because it's not good practice to have keyframes on the camera if you don't want them. So turning off my keyframing, Alt R and Alt G, and then I'm going to hit 0 and sort of try to center it up, and then G, and then tap Z twice, or Z, and this gives you the ability to sort of move in and move out, sort of towards and away from the camera, and it doesn't matter what sort of way the camera's facing, you can move in and out that way just with GZ, or G and Z twice. So yeah, that's just a useful tip. And I'm going to move the camera to about there, make sure it's fairly centered up. And you can sort of see from the grid lines the sort of distance that things need to be. So it's not 100% centered up, but that's pretty close. And we will get to a point where the entire screen is covered in colour. So that looks about good. We'll give the JJ3D a material of its own. We'll make it a new one. Make sure to turn off the specular and bring that one up. And I'll make it, say, a dark green. And then that's not going to merge in with any of the other colours. So yeah, make sure you choose a different colour to any of those. That should be good. So that looks fine like that. So yeah, we want to start everything at this frame, so 52. Maybe make it frame 60 just for a even number. So this number here, start 60. So all that before there is grayed out. And then if we need 5 seconds of footage at 24 frames per second, we want the end frame to be 120 frames later. So we want the end frame to be 180. And you can change these values here, or you can change them here. They both change the same thing. And I'll just turn the percentage up to 100, and I'm just going to do it at 1280 by 720. And I'll just render a single frame, and you can see it's not quite right. There's something a bit weird going on. Because we are in 3D space and we've got a light that's sort of off to the side, you can see that there's a shadow being cast that way. So we'll get this light, go Alt-R, Alt-G, and I'll make it a hemi and bring it back, and probably just 0.5 energy should be enough. You can have more energy if you want. Have it at 1 if you want it to be really bright. And you'll see again in this test render the JJ3D is actually bigger than the color objects, even though when we modeled it, it was the colored objects were bigger than the JJ3D. So what's happening is basically the perspective into 3D space, because the JJ3D is closer, it's bigger than everything else. And in order to just sort of get everything nice and flat, because we're doing a 2D type animation, with the camera selected, you have to change the lens from perspective to orthographic, and it's not sort of a usual change that you would do, but for the sake of this effect, it makes everything fit in nice and perfectly. And I may want to just sort of turn up the rendered subdivisions, because I can see it's a little bit chunky at the corners there. But unfortunately I don't have them all linked together, so at a later point, or so if you're doing it again, you can turn up the render value for all of them, or you can go through and select them and up that, but I won't bother for the sake of time. I think that's pretty much everything. Turn up anti-aliasing and stuff, render as a PNG or video files. Generally you're not supposed to, but it's only a short clip, so sometimes it helps to have a video file. Compression, I want that at 100% to make it look nice. Yeah, that pretty much covers the effect and how to achieve it. Just quickly at the end, leave any comments if you like it or you don't like it. Let me know. Tutorial requests are always appreciated, because it sort of gives me some ideas of the sort of direction to go in. Go to my Twitter, twitter.com/Molytron, I think it is. And I just started a Facebook page a couple of days ago. It's only got a couple of likes from my friends. But I'll be posting updates about sort of what I'm doing and when new videos are going up and stuff. I'll post all that sort of stuff on the Facebook page, facebook.com/jjanaway3d. I'll put links to all these at the end of the video and in the description box. And I think that just about covers everything, so good luck, and I will see you next time.